Welcome, everyone, to my Red Starter Deck development series. In this set of videos, we're going to take the Red Starter Deck and slowly expand on it as our collection grows. In this first video, we're going to take the core deck and we're going to only modify it by adding up to 2 copies of any common card and 1 copy of any uncommon card. In the next video, we will be using 4 copies of a common card, 2 copies of an uncommon card, 1 copy of a rare card. And then the video after that, we'll be using 4 commons, 4 uncommons, 2 rares, and up to 1 epic. The goal of this video series is to, first of all, teach you about my deck building process. And then it's also to give you a nice set of ways you can expand this deck as your collection grows. Note that you might not open all the cards in the exact order that I'm adding them to the deck, but at least this will hopefully give you a good framework to build from. The starter deck is this like tempo deck where you're trying to get card advantage through small cards. So the first thing I'm going to do is go through and look at the commons and uncommons that might make sense to go into it. And I'm going to start with neutral, but I don't think that there's anything in neutral that is why is this filter not working? Okay. Anything in neutral that's or I'll just do it all at once. Okay. So let's look at neutral and red and see what's in there. So the first thing I can see when I see this is we definitely will want 4 have an encore. This card is so strong in the starter deck, just in the red deck in general, and it's a common. So I'll be allowed to add 2 copies of that. All right. So let's see what else we've got in here. Um, so grow together is something to consider once we have mega penguins in the deck, but this deck doesn't have any mega penguins yet in it because that's an epic, so we won't add that for now. So there's this big question about key turning penguin versus bamboo penguin. Once you end up getting popcorn penguin, which is this card that allows you that removes the lowest vibe penguin from the board, then you definitely always wanna play Bamboo Penguin. But I still think Bamboo Penguin is a better card for beginners anyway because it's less complicated. So we'll leave Key Turning Penguin out. Alright, let's look at what else we've got. Okay, so Trust Fall. Trust Fall is such a strong card. So we're gonna put 4 copies of Trust Fall in because it's a common, so we're allowed to add up to 2 more copies, but it already has 3 copies, so we'll add 1 more copy. Let's see what else we've got here. So we've got Put on a Show, that's already in there. So the other card, so Carnival Penguin is something to consider. So I will put in up to 2 Carnival Penguins. I don't know if really going to be the right deck for it. And then the one other card, Hungry Penguin, actually, mm, Hungry Penguin. Let's just put 1 card in for now, and we'll see how the deck list develops because it is an uncommon. But there are situations like against Bunkus where Hungry Penguin can be very strong. I think the problem with Hungry Penguin in this deck is that you have Put on a Show. So because Put on a Show is already Put on a Show removes a penguin with vibe 10 or greater, you already have a good way to deal with big penguins. So I don't think we'll really be putting Hungry Penguin in. But all right, so now we look at our deck list. We have 58 cards. So when we look at this list, there is 1 card which I think in here is a very, very weak card, which is Use Whoopee Cushion. So the reason that I don't like Use Whoopee Cushion is it's just so situational. It basically says choose a penguin with vibe 10 or greater, reduce its vibe by 4 for the rest of the cycle. So there's the other thing with this card is you already have a great way to deal with penguins that are 10 vibe or greater, which is Put on a Show. Right? Because the red starter deck has Put on a Show, which gets rid of penguins with vibe 10 or greater, and then you have Sunburn a Penguin, which gets rid of penguins with vibe 4 or less. Like Use Whoopee Cushion just moves something from vibe of like 10 to 6. But once it's at 6, the red starter deck really struggles to deal with penguins with vibe 5 to 9. So you're basically taking a penguin and putting it into the vibe range you can't deal with. So I think this card is not good at all in the starter deck. And I really don't even know, like there might be some deck that really focuses on cycling that this could be good for, but we're going to remove that. All right, so now let's see. So we have 2 more cards we're going to to remove. And the first one we're going to remove um is the oh yeah, so we have to get rid of these filters. So let's just go to putting all the filters in. So the starter decks all have these like really big Timmy cards in them, and this card has a vibe of 10. and I just or a fish cost of 10, and I just don't really see that this ever is gonna be possible to be played, just because it's so hard to get to 10 fish. So I just really don't think, like, that any deck really has any business getting that high, and so we'll definitely remove that. I know it seems sad because it's such a cool card, and it's like your epic, but if we're trying to win games, this card should be removed. Alright, so now let's look at our deck list. So, also we have a lot of 4 of everything, which is good. So the question is, we need to remove 1 more card, and is there let's just do a quick check again on red, just to see if there's anything we missed. Oh, yeah, Again and Again. Again and Again is a very good card in the red deck because there's so many like, it can pair with a Trust Fall, it can pair with a Sunburn, and when we pair it with a Trust Fall, we can do the combo of Trust Fall and Peace Out Penguin. So let's put 1 Again and Again in. The reason we're only allowed to put in 1 is because it's an uncommon, and if you don't know how to understand the rarity, at the bottom of the card, you can see this little logo down here, and if it's this, like, gray color, it's uncommon. If it's this, like, white color, it's common. If it's this gold color, it's rare, and then the epics are this kind of like reddish color. All right, so we still have to remove 2 cards, and let's look at the top. So I think this will mean Hungry Penguin will get cut, and then we have 2 Carnival Penguins, so let's go down to 1 Carnival Penguin. So I think to summarize, we've basically just taken the red starter deck and we've made some slight modifications to it in order to make it a little bit stronger. And so the modifications we made is we took out the 4 use whoopee cushion, and we took out the how do you pronounce this? The Chubo Chubopolis, Chubopolis maybe, and we added in a carnival penguin to still have a little bit of top end. We added in we added in a we added in 2 have an encores, and then we also yeah, I think that was the changes. So, and 1 again and again. All right, so let's jump into some games and we'll see how it goes. Cool. So, jumping into the first game, let's first start talking about the mulligan. And the mulligan is at the beginning of the game deciding which cards you want to keep. And this is one of the most important parts of the game because it's basically a really good opportunity to get your hand set correctly for the game. And for the red starter deck, we really want penguin. So we have a red wizard penguin and a ribbon dancing penguin. So that's a really good set of 2 to 3. Like we have a good curve here. Drop of attention we'll throw away, and just because that's a card you definitely want later in the game. And okay, so now we have 2 sunburns. Let's keep 1 sunburn because if you already have a good penguin curve, keeping 1 piece of removal can be very useful. And okay, so we got another drop of attention back. And we got to put on a show, which is good. So we have a nice removal suite, and we have a nice curve of penguins, and we have a victory. So I think this is people. Yeah, this happens to me a lot where people surrender right at the beginning, but it is they did not know that I'm playing a starter deck, but we'll see. All right, let's try again. Yeah, so I think that's something that is yeah, so while we wait, let's talk a little bit more about oh, never mind. I was gonna talk about the approach of the red starter deck, but I guess we'll do that during the game. So yeah, okay, so we're going back to the mulligan, and again, right, with the mulligan, we're trying to set up our hand for success. And it's really like the mulligan is extremely important, and it really depends on what you have. All right, so again, we're looking for a strong penguin curve. So we have a 1, a 3, and a 4. So that's good. So the question is, so we definitely want to get rid of a drop of attention just because the board clear is something that actually it's pretty anti-synergistic with this deck to begin with. We'll be removing those in the next iteration of this video series. Um, all right. So yeah, so unfortunately we had the thing where it times out and doesn't let you pick the mulligan, but I probably would have still kept the screaming penguin, so it's okay. All right. So now let's think about how we want to play out the game. So we already have, all right. So what are we going to use as a rod? We definitely want to play Contemplative Penguin on turn 1, just because we're trying to just curve out our penguins. And so what do we want to use as a rod? So right now in the starter deck, have an Encore is a strong card, but it's not that strong just because we don't have the Mega Penguins yet to make really strong combos. So I think that'll be a good rod, and we're just basically gonna try to play out our curve. So we'll play the Contemplative Penguin on turn 1, and the other thing with the red deck to keep in mind is you really aren't trying to like tempo out and take over the game. The way that this deck works is you keep getting small card advantages through each of the actions. And that means that um I don't really need to play out a bunch of stuff. Like it's okay if I react to the what the opponent is doing. And all right, so what I have now is so on this turn here, like so the question is do we really want to play out the peace out penguin? And the reason that I'm not really so sure if I want to do that is I kind of like the rest of my hand and I don't really need to. Like because once you play out peace out penguin, the opponent kind of reacts to it and they know that I have it. So I think I'm just going to pass and let them kind of take initiative. All right, so we're waiting for the opponent and yeah, so that's kind of what we're doing with their starter deck is kind of waiting. All right, so we're playing yellow. So one thing to think about yellow is this going to be a drop of attention game? So ideally, we want to just kind of take over with Peace Out Penguin and not need to rely on drop of attention. But there might be a world where we'll end up having to do that. All right, so we're going to lose the vibe check. And so now that we have the Peace Out Penguin in our hand, we need to think about how do we how do we activate it? Because with Peace Out Penguin, we need to have an activator. And let's check the rod. Okay, we didn't end up getting a not a rod anymore. But okay, so we have put on a show. So put on a show is extremely important against yellow. Right. I've seen so many comments in the Discord about how do I deal with an extrovert penguin? How do I deal with shy penguin? But especially extrovert penguin. And the red deck actually has a really strong toolkit for dealing with extrovert penguin. The first thing you can do, which is you can sunburn it when it's small. The second thing you can do is you can put on a show it when it's big, and you can peace out it when it's medium sized. All right, so we drew a bamboo penguin. And so I think we'll just keep slowly playing out the curve. The reason I don't really need to play the peace out penguin this turn is I don't have anything to activate it. So, like if I played it now, played a rod this turn and then played the peace out penguin, I wouldn't have anything. So, like I wouldn't be able to activate it. So, I'll just wait a second. Like I'll just wait a turn and slowly play it out. So yeah, so the question 2 is do we really want to use peace out penguin on the penguins that they have out? Because the what's it called? The dancing dashing swordsman penguin is like a not that strong of a penguin, and the penguin of the falling leaves is not really that strong at all. So I think I want to save my peace out penguin to get rid of an extrovert penguin. So what we'll probably do is wait till they play the extrovert and then play this in response. The only thing is we still don't have a way to activate it. Like we're still missing an activation. So that's something we'll be looking for. All right, so we have a sunburn, which is an activation. So now the question is, so we could go for a pretty strong play this turn, which is we basically play the piece out, we activate it with a sunburn, and we get rid of these two penguins. So that's a when we think about the card advantage of that play, we would be using three cards or two cards. We'd be using sunburn and peace out penguin, and we'll be getting rid of three cards. So I think that's a pretty good deal. And but the problem is if they play an extrovert, I don't really have good removal for it. But either way, let's get the piece out on the board this turn. And so I think we'll have to use our Screaming Penguin as a rod, but I think that's okay because we have two. And Screaming Penguin, so let's talk about Screaming Penguin for a bit. Screaming Penguin, the role of Screaming Penguin in this deck is the finisher. So whenever you play an action, you boost this penguin's vibe by 2 for the rest of the cycle. So you want to play a Screaming Penguin, then play a bunch of actions, and then boost it. I was too distracted by Screaming Penguin because I wanted to do the peace out play, I think. Although I don't really think I should have done it because I think I want to wait to get a little more juicy of a peace out penguin. And I think that's okay to have waited. But yeah, so we're going to keep playing out our curve. The really nice thing about having run it back penguin is that I'm going to be able to re-get one of my removal spells. And so against yellow, we really want to just control the board and remove everything. So now that I'm thinking about it a little more, I I do actually probably just want to do the peace out play. All right, cool. So we got ribbon dancing penguin, which is great because it again, one of the temptations with this deck is just to keep playing out your cards aggressively. But you don't need to do that. You do not need to just play stuff as rods. Your rods will naturally come as you control the board, and so only play the rods if there's a reason to. And right now we have a three fish card. We have three rods, so why not just play this? Take our time keep our hand, the more optionality we have in our hand, the more powerful plays we'll be able to do. That being said, I think I will do this play this turn because that's going to really one of the things with yellow is once they have 4, they would be able to get so if yellow has access to 4 Pudge, they can do Not Your Keys. And Not Your Keys can basically wreck Peace Out Penguin, because what would happen is I would do Peace Out Penguin, and in response, they would use Not Your Keys on Peace Out Penguin to remove it, which would cancel its ability. So, I think I will do it to keep them off of 4 Pudge. So first we'll do Sunburn a Penguin, and let's Sunburn the Dashing Swordsman. And so then we have to pay 2 Pudge, and we'll pay these 2 Pudge. And now the other question we should be asking ourselves is, do we want to cycle have an encore? And I think the answer to that is no, because it was like basically the question is, would we rather have a random card from our deck instead of this have an encore? But because the rest of my hand is really strong, I have a 4 fish card into a 5 fish card. Why would I do that? Plus, it's a really good card for chaining a lot of cards together, which will go great with the Screaming Penguin or the Carnival Penguin. Let's so then another really temptation thing would be to activate the Peace Out Penguin now. Because if I activate the Peace Out Penguin now, I'm basically going to put both of my removals on the same stack, and that's a really bad idea. Because the reason you don't want to do that is it allows your opponent to respond to them, both knowing exactly what you're going to do. So by letting the first removal resolve first, it now removes the optionality of my opponent, where they now have to respond to just one at a time, and they have one less Pudge available to respond to the Peace Out Penguin. So the rule of thumb is you always just want to do one one removal at a time on the stack. Now, that doesn't mean that's always the case, right? There's going to be times when you want to put multiple removals on the stack, like in edge cases, but just when in like if you're not sure, just do one at a time and it'll be super like that's the kind of standard best practice rule of thumb. All right, so now we've really taken good control of the board, and you can see now we're going to get a rod by winning the vibe check. So why would I like if I had played a rod last turn, I now would have 5 rods, and I only need 4 rods because I'm going to play the run it back penguin. So yeah, so now we've taken good control of the board, and this is where the red starter deck feels super like this is where you're in control. You basically have control of the board, and you have good removal spells. Once we get the run it back penguin down on the board, right? You can think of this card as basically just being a sunburn right now. So at any point in time, I can trade this in for a sunburn and then use the sunburn, which so I have 2 put on a shows. So anything they play big, we can put on a show. And anything that they play small, we can sunburn. And we'll win with the run it back with a vibe of 6. So the only thing that's going to get us in trouble is if they play something that has a vibe of 8. And so what has a vibe of 8 in the yellow starter deck? The only thing I can think of is a penguin who's late to the party, which is this card over here. And the penguin who's late to the party can only become a vibe of 8 if it comes with a 6 vibe counter condition. But because I have more like 4 penguins on the board already, that's not going to happen. So even if they play the 6 vibe penguin, the penguin who doesn't mind goodbyes, it won't matter. So that's why it's really good to keep the run it back penguin on the board, because that means that like right now my plan is to keep hold of the Baron for the rest of the game. I don't want to give it up anymore, and I'm just going to win this game now just by purely controlling the board. So, oh, and a second run it back penguin. So I'm going to play the Screaming Penguin, and the reason I'm playing the Screaming Penguin over the run it back penguin is to be fish efficient or fish efficient. Because now, right, we have 5 fish, we can play Screaming Penguin. We're going to get another rod next turn, which is going to give us 6 rods. And so once we have 6 rods, let's say we drew another Bamboo Penguin. In that case, or a Red Wizard Penguin, we could then play the run it back with the Red Wizard Penguin. So if there's no real benefit to playing one card over the other, staying fish efficient will enable you to play your hand out as quickly as possible. We also need to check. So we're at 10 points right now. Oh, look, there's the extrovert. So, right, the question is, how do we deal with the extrovert? And in this case, we have, so one thing that they could do with the extrovert is they could get it to exactly size 8. Because if they got the extrovert to vibe 8, then I would not be able to deal with it. So I'm going to just take care of it right away. So, right, extrovert penguins need to be iced on site if possible. So I'm going to use the run it back penguin, get my sunburn back, and then just ice the extrovert. The reason for that is just if they make it too big, I can deal with it with put on a show. But there is a situation where they could get it to exactly a size of 8, and then I might not be able to beat it. So one of the red things with the red starter deck is you really just need to always plan around how are you going to deal with 8 vibe penguins because you really don't have any good answers to it. So it's one of the weaknesses of the deck. And so you need to just be proactively thinking about it so that you can take care of it. So we'll take care of the extrovert right away. And so now we're down to 9, which is a little sad because we lost our run it back penguin, but we'll play a new one next turn. So we'll have an answer for the next extrovert as well. One of the things, like, as we're winning the vibe check is we don't want like, we actually only draw 1 card a turn, and our opponent is drawing 2. So, they're going to catch up on us, and so we do kind of wanna close the game out quickly. So, let's see. Okay, so we're gonna be at 10. We're gonna play the run it back, which will put us at 11. We'll draw a card, which could be 12. So, we're not gonna be able to end it this turn. Alright, so now we but, like, so let's think about, like, we should really try to end the game next turn. And so to end the game next turn, we need to have 14 points. So right now we have 11. We'll get a rod for winning the vibe check, which will put us at 12. Then we'll draw a card and we can play another rod, put at 13. But if we draw another action, we won't be able to get to 14. So I will use the put on a show right now as a rod because that means that next turn, no matter what happens, we will be able to get to 14, even if we don't draw a penguin. And then the question is, what can they play over the next 2 turns that we won't be able to win the game, and how do we plan around that? So, if they play a shy penguin, which has a 10 vibe, we can put on a show it. If they play another extrovert, we could run it back, but if we run it back, we're going to end up, having to ice it, which will delay our victory by 1 turn. Alright, they played a Pleplum, which is not a threat for us because right, so this is another reason why against yellow, using that play we did with the peace out was very critical because it kinda kept the board under control. So the Pleplum is not threatening to us, so we can just take our time. Alright, so we're gonna win with the Screaming Penguin. Again, in most situations, it doesn't matter who you select to win the vibe check, but there are certain cards that care about, which penguin wins the vibe check. And that is that that interaction is something you should think about. All right, so we did draw a penguin. So the question is, do we want to play this as a rod or not? And I think we'll play it out on the board just in case. I don't really see any downside because we already have a 2 vibe penguin out here. So there's certain cards that can destroy 2 vibe penguins, like a Gotham or a Daydreaming Penguin. But that card would already have a target, and this makes us a little more flexible because with this deck, if we start chaining together spells, like we have put on a show, let's say that they play a 2 shy penguins. We wouldn't actually be able to remove it this turn. Oh, no, actually, we could because we have an encore. So I feel pretty strong about us being able to close out this game. But maybe so if they play 4 penguins, all right, and then they play maybe a not your keys, we might need to play for 1 more turn. All right, so they're going wide. I think they were waiting for another extrovert. So again, like had we not taken care of that extrovert would have grown like crazy. All right, so we're still in a good position. And yeah, so I think we're gonna we're gonna win now, right? Yes, perfect. So let's see what they have. Well, so okay, so if they had a not your keys, then we're not gonna win this turn. So let's think about from their perspective. Would it be better to not your keys the run it back penguin? And or would it be better to not your keys the screaming penguin? And the answer is very clearly the screaming penguin. Because if they play the not your keys against the run it back penguin. In response, I can basically activate it and get my sunburn back. So, one thing to keep in mind whenever you're trying to remove run it back penguins is it's really best to do it when it's already flopped. See? All right, very very good play by my opponent. All right, so they're going to remove the screaming penguin. So, there's nothing we can really do in response to this. So let's just let this resolve and wait till next turn. Now, it is something where now we can't really, now the run it back penguin, we're gonna try our best to not have to activate it because it's 6 vibe. And well, so we do have the Baron, so we could end the game with a 4 vibe. And the question is, what 6 vibe does yellow run? It runs penguin that doesn't mind goodbyes. And we right now would have no answer to a penguin that doesn't mind goodbyes. So let's see if we've gotten any. No, we still haven't gotten any not a rod anymores. So let's see. All right, so now we have another ribbon dancing penguin. So I think we'll play that. And the reason we're going to play another penguin on the board is now we can actually play both put on a shows. So for some reason, their hand was like shy penguin, flying penguin. Uh, well, they wouldn't have enough. If it was inquisitive penguin, shy penguin, we could still play around that. And we'd still be able to get it because the ribbon dancers are 2 pudge, 4 pudge, 6 pudge. Yeah, perfect. So, okay, so what can we lose to now? So if they play anything with a vibe greater than 8, so if they have anything that's an 8 vibe, we wouldn't be able to deal with it. But the extrovert is not going to be able to get 8 vibe because they only have 2 cards in their hand. So maybe they're going to have another removal card. But now if they remove the run it back penguin, well, if they remove it, then we would tie the vibe check. So maybe I should have played a put on a show as a rod. That's an interesting question because if I played the put on a show or they have an encore as a rod, I would still win if they had another removal spell. But okay, they don't have a removal action, so we'll be fine. All right, so this game is going to be done because there's nothing that they only have one pudge left. So unless they had a got him as a rod, well, even if they had a got him as a rod, they could only take us down to 14 points. So nothing nothing will happen there. Okay, so we won our first game, and yeah, so what we saw there was the basic game plan of the deck. And the one thing again that we really weren't exploring too much is a drop of attention and how that fits in this deck. But as we do the later episodes of the series where we add in more cards, a drop of attention is going to get cut. I really don't think it works well in this deck, or at least not with my play style, because I think this is a very board control tempo type deck, and a drop of attention ends up clearing your own board. But all right, so let's jump into another game. Okay, so looking at our hand again, during the mulligan, we're looking for a strong curve. So we again got a really nice curve. We got a 1 into a 2 into a 3. So we have these two actions, and I really want to keep Trust Fall because Trust Fall is an activator for Peace Out Penguin. And so then the question is, do we keep Have an Encore? And Have an Encore is a very supportive card that you really, yeah, it's a really more of a, like a good late game card. So I think we will save it for later. All right, and we got to put on a show. So the question is, do we want to use the put on a show as a rod or not? Or okay, so what should we use as the rod? So the question is, okay, so we're going to play out 1, 2, 3, and so so the options for the rod are Trust Fall, Put on a Show, or Screaming Penguin. I really don't want to use Trust Fall because I want an activator for Peace Out Penguin. So then the question is, what about Put on a Show? Ugh, if this was yellow, all right, I need to make sure not to run out of time. So I'm just gonna do Screaming Penguin. I also because I don't see the timer going, and so I'm not sure how much time I had left. And I've definitely run out of time while trying to talk through my plays. So why did I do Screaming Penguin? And the reason I did Screaming Penguin is just there's been so many games where I've needed to put on a show, and if I am not able to find it, I lose the game. So especially against yellow, and because about half of the ladder right now is the yellow starter deck, I wanna confirm that it's not a yellow deck before I get rid of my put on a show. So, the other nice thing about playing this one drop is, all right, so I'm gonna win the vibe check, which means I won't even need to play a rod next turn. Again, because right, we're not in a rush. The red starter deck, or I'll call it the modified red starter deck, or the way that I play the red starter deck, which is I did take out cards that were maybe of a different style, is to just really play it slow and steady. And so let's see. So we're gonna play the red wizard penguin this turn. Then next turn, again, I'm not even sure if we'll play the peace out penguin because again, the peace out penguin is really best kept in your hand and played the turn you want to use it because otherwise they know it's on the board and they will start playing around it. That being said, it can be useful to just, you know, right, if you want to be fish efficient. But this brings up like a good question. Like, let's say we don't win the vibe check the upcoming turn. I think I would stay at 2 rods and just play another red wizard penguin. This deck can require a lot of pudge, so playing the wizard penguin out, like having 2 wizard penguins is perfect. I wanna definitely play the wizard penguin, so why would I rush in order to get the peace out penguin out earlier, when in reality, the peace out penguin is a penguin that I want to keep in my hand. So, overall, I'm still curious what they are. So still haven't seen any cards, but okay, so we're gonna get another rod anyway. So let's check here. All right, so we still haven't seen a single not a rod anymore. But I guess while we wait, let's talk a little bit about the role of not a rod anymore in this deck. Not a rod anymore can really get you out of a lot of sticky situations. So the first thing it can do, and again, not a rod anymore, is one of those rods that you can play out to, it's a rod that you can play as an action, and it allows you to increase the vibe of any penguin by 2 for the rest of the cycle. And so it can be an activator for Peace Out Penguin, but it can also like protect your red wizard penguin if they do a those cards that say destroy a penguin with vibe 2 or less. The not a rod anymore can nullify that. All right, so but we're in no rush, so we're gonna play another red wizard penguin and just take our time. So again, with this deck, we have such a nice removal suite. We have Peace Out Penguin, Sunburn a Penguin, Put on a Show. So we're gonna be able to get rid of one big thing, one small thing, and one medium thing. And I guess I spent a lot of time previously talking about how this deck has no answers to penguins with vibe of 8. I think that's technically incorrect because Peace Out Penguin is able to answer them. So you do have Peace Out Penguin, but the thing with Peace Out Penguin is it's so powerful and you really want to get a 2 for 1 with it. So and whenever they have a thing with a vibe of 8, you need to then find a thing with a vibe of 2. So it's a little bit unreliable, but in the case of an emergency, it's definitely a great option. All right, so they're still not playing anything. So I really wonder what we're playing against. I kind of think this is going to be one of those yellow decks that's saving up all their cards, and then they're going to explode onto the board one turn, and make a giant extrovert. But the good news is, if they do that, we have a perfect answer. We're going to basically play Peace Out Penguin, and then we're going to play either Sunburn a Penguin or Put on a Show, and we should be able to just take care of the entire board or all um, the big things on the board at once. All right, so we got another Sunburn. So that's not important to really play out. So I think we're just going to keep waiting. Again, this is the whole thing with this red deck, and I think this is one of the mistakes that a lot of people make when they pilot it, is they just wanna play all their cards out as quickly as possible, and it's a very reactionary deck, and we will just slowly grind higher without any, um, and let's see what they do so that we can get the most value from our cards. I think one other thing that is let's talk a little bit about Trust Fall. And Trust Fall has this really cool secondary use case where it says if that penguin has 0 vibe, it can't be iced for this cycle. And so what that means is let's say that they played a card to destroy our red wizard penguin. In response, we could Trust Fall our red wizard penguin and get its vibe to 0, and then it couldn't be destroyed. And so that's a that's a really good way to protect it. But okay, so all right, so now we got a bamboo penguin. So the bamboo penguin, I feel comfortable playing on the board. We're gonna get our vibe a little bit higher. So now we have a 4 vibe on the board, which can be useful if they spam a bunch of small penguins on the board. That'll be a good way um that we can leave 2 vibe minions on the board and still maintain the Baron. So okay, so let's see what else is happening from their part. So I'm getting a little concerned that they haven't played anything. So I think there's gonna be a really big, really powerful turn coming, and I don't know I don't know okay, so it's green. Alright, that is not what I was expecting. So, okay, so when it's green, we definitely need all of our put on a shows. I think the one thing with green, though, is green green doesn't have a lot of small things you can sunburn. And then the question is now, do we want to win or tie the vibe check? And so this is something where you want to generally be tying the vibe check if you want the game to go slower and you want to win it or just have it something happen with it if you want it to go faster. And right now they have all these cards in hand. So I want this game to accelerate. So I'm going to sunburn this. And we also already we had so yeah, I think there's 3 reasons I did this, or 2 reasons. One is or 3 reasons. One is because I want to exclusively, like, have a 4 vibe, penguin because we're getting close to the end of the game, and there's a chance we'll be able to just win the board with that. The second thing is we had 2 sunburns in hand, and the third is that green doesn't really have a lot of good sunburn targets. So I think the one thing that I wasn't thinking about is let's say that next turn they play a 6 vibe penguin. Then you can combine Trustfall with Sunburn together. And that's something that's, then I can actually take care of a 6 vibe penguin. So maybe that was incorrect. But anyway, we'll just need to see what else comes out. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of big things that are coming soon. And so maybe we want to think about can we end the game before that? So we're at 10 and we're going to get to 11, 12, 13, 14. So we need 4 more. Okay, so Run It Back is a really strong card here. And this is another reason why playing Sunburn there was good. Because now, if they remove Run It Back, one thing to keep in mind is let's say that they do something to remove Run It Back Penguin. If I play a spell in response to that, and that spell is still on the stack, I can't then use Run It Back to get that same spell back. So for Run It Back to be able to use its ability, the action already needs to be inside of the ice. So, all right. So I think, okay. So now we're going to be at 12. We're going to be at 12 this turn. And because we're going to get a rod here. And the question is, should we go for the win? And I think, so personally, my opinion is if you're able to put them like on match point, you should do it. If it's not wasting a lot of cards, because it's kind of that mentality of make them have it. And so I think this next turn we will go to 14. I also think we'll see what happens, but I feel like I've done so much thinking and talking and they haven't played anything. So, wow, yeah, they have so many cards in hand. So, I don't know. Yeah, so okay, so we got another sunburn. So, this is going to be a situation now where I am going to specifically go on to 14. And the reason I'm doing that is I'm basically saying you have to have it. You have to somehow play something this turn or I'm going to win the game. And it's just forcing them to basically use they're gonna have up to 7 fish, and the question is there anything that they can do? Alright, they didn't play anything. Okay, so this game was a little bit so I feel like I did do a lot of explaining through my thought process, but ultimately, they played 1 penguin, so they must have either drawn terribly or I don't know exactly what happened, but so yeah, so it's a little bit of a uninteresting game, but I think there was a lot of thought process that did went into it, and I think we played it in a very good line. But I think any play style would have won that game. All right, so okay, so again, so I know I say we always mulligan for a strong curve, but this is looking a little a little intense. Like I don't think we need 3 ribbon dancing penguins. So I'm gonna get rid of 1 ribbon dancing penguin. Ribbon Dancing Penguin is a very solid penguin in this deck, but I just think 4 just seems a little intense. All right, so now let's see. So the question is always on the first turn, which makes me very it's always so hard with this deck is what do I do as the rod? And I think I'm going to do a put on a show because if I didn't actually want 2 Ribbon Dancing Penguins, yeah, because I have 2 of them, we'll see if this ends up biting us. But yeah, I think we'll start with a put on a show. Um, So the other thing that I'm thinking about is right. We talk about drop of attention, and in this deck again, I really feel like it kind of goes against the grain of what this deck is trying to do. And so one thing I'm actually thinking about is like, would we want to put in bounce house rods instead of drop of attention? Just because that would enable us to play the put on a shows and bring it back to our hands. And so I think we're going to do that. And I think because bounce house rods are in the green starter deck, I will allow myself to put in any number of them. Yeah, so they didn't play anything on the first turn, so we won the vibe check again, which means that we'll be able um, to play the red wizard penguin. I think also to re-go back to the put on a show versus the ribbon dancing decision, I think at the time I made the decision, I didn't know that I was deciding against to put on a show. I was deciding against the third ribbon dancing penguin. And so I think that's a trap that of thinking that I fall into a lot, which is something you really want to avoid, which is right, you have new information once the mulligan resolved. So even though it might have been the right decision to keep two ribbon dancings at the time of the mulligan, once we saw that the thing now we were trading off against is two put on a shows, maybe it's not actually the right choice anymore. All right, so they didn't play anything again on turn two. So okay, so we'll win the vibe check, and then we're gonna play out. Okay, so we got a sunburn, and I think this is again, this is kind of what I think about is like where you really feel comfortable with this deck is when you have a sunburn in your hand and a put on a show, because having a sunburn and a put on a show will enable you to, um, yeah, will enable you to basically take care of anything you want. So okay, so we're gonna play the ribbon dancing penguin. I'm not gonna play a rod again. We're in no rush, and so we'll be able to control or right, we're in no rush. We'll just play the ribbon dancing. Also, just to think about, because we won the vibe check, they're still on two fish. Now I think there are certain decks that do get a benefit from just aggressively ramping out fish, and that's if I was playing something big like some seven um, or 8 Pudge Penguins, but we don't run anything. The biggest thing we do is we have that carnival penguin, but I'm also kind of thinking now that I realized I could put Bounce House Rod in. I think I'm gonna just remove the carnival penguin as well because I think there's 3 Have an Encores in this deck and 1 carnival penguin. So I think I'm gonna just get rid of all of those and put in the Bounce House Rod. And I think that's gonna really make this deck better. And I think for context also, I've never played with this deck before making this content. So I'm kind of live figuring it out, and I think that that's another thing that I want to kind of make this series kind of show is my thought process of like analyzing the deck as I'm playing it and to see what improvements I want to make to it. And so yeah, so I think now that I've kind of talked to it a little more, I really think I'm gonna just go full like 4 bounce house rods and then just get rid of the the carnival penguin and the 3 what's it called? Drop of attention. I think it's a little sad to do that from a very ungameplay related thing because I just really love the art on drop of attention. But we're trying to win, not look at pretty cards. Okay, so let's see what else. All right, so now let's look at how our hand is shaping up. So we're at 8. Okay, so now this is a yellow. So all right, we've talked about extrovert penguin a lot, and basically extrovert penguins need to be removed. And right now I can remove it with a sunburn a penguin, but if I wait too long, it could get out of reach, and then I'd have to use my put on a show on it. And the thing with the yellow deck is it has so many targets for put on a show. So let's get rid of it with the sunburn. Oh, I have to pay the pudge. Wait, I might have misclicked there. So let me just redo it. Okay, so I'm going to click the extrovert and play the 2 pudge. Okay, so now the question is, do I want to cycle the have an encore? Now, the reason I would consider doing that is that would just I don't know. Do I need to cycle it? Because I don't really need more penguins. I think so. What would I actually want in my hand? And again, we'll let the sunburn resolve either way before we do anything else. But what is my hand really missing? I think my hand is missing just a finisher. It's missing a screaming penguin or a run it back penguin. But okay, so and what do I need to have an encore for? Because I have the 2 ribbon dancers, right? The nice thing about having an encore is it unflops 2 penguins, but I have so much pudge already. So I'm going to just cycle this. And so something you can think about with having an encore is now this doesn't really matter in this situation, but if I flop the ribbon dancing penguin, I'm going to float um oh wait. Wow, okay, so I did that completely wrong. I was thinking I was paying pudge and instead I was selecting the penguins. But either way, it doesn't matter because in this play, it doesn't. But my goal was to unflop the ribbon dancing penguin and the red wizard penguin. And then I basically would have one floating pudge left, which means I would then have access to 8 pudge for the rest of the turn. And the reason that I'm cycling Have an Encore here is that Trust Fall, like Have an Encore has this condition that says you can only play this action if you played another red action this cycle. So because I played the Sunburn this turn, it was an opportunity to cycle it. And again, Have an Encore is it's a very like supportive card in the deck, and it becomes super, super strong when Red Mega Penguin is in the deck. But right, Red Mega Penguin is an epic, so we're not going to get access to that until two videos later in the series. So yeah, so it's not what we need, what we have right now. Okay, so we did draw the Sun Screaming Penguin. So you can see that if we hadn't played the Had an Encore, well, we still would have, I guess, drawn the Trust Fall. I guess the Screaming Penguin would have become a Rod, but I think that's, you know, that's like that's another thing that when you're playing the game, you should never always think of your deck as just randomly shuffled, and don't get upset if something becomes a Rod and you're like, "Ugh, I could have drawn that," because statistically, it doesn't really matter. Like the only thing that matters is if you know for sure what a card is. Okay, so now we have this extrovert that we can't actually deal with. And so we're gonna basically have to bait them to make this become a 10 vibe penguin. And see, look, they learned their lesson and they're gonna get it out of range of sunburn. The nice thing is we now have screaming penguin. So now when it comes to the vibe check, I actually like I think I think I don't really mind losing the vibe check, but all right, so tying the vibe check is not ideal, but I don't really want to spend a trust fall. So I think with Trust Fall, there's like so many interesting things that we can do with Trust Fall. Especially one other thing to think about is on the final turn, right? Screaming Penguin is our finisher. So we want to have as many spells as possible for that final turn with Screaming Penguin. Now, so that would have been maybe a reason to keep having Encore, but again, like we only have 3 cards in our hand and we have 7 Pudge. So we literally could play everything in our hand. And again, right, the reason I'm counting Ribbon Dancing Penguin as two Pudge is because it will get activated. So we do have this extrovert to deal with. But the good news is we could play Trust Fall, which would get Screaming Penguin to be an 8. And then another Trust Fall to get it to be a 10. And if the extrovert has grown to 10 by that point, then we can just remove it. So okay, so this is now a question of do we want to do anything? And again, we're playing very very hands off defensive. So let's just see what they develop. Now we don't really. One thing that we're missing is a really good way to deal with another threat. We have one piece of removal right now, and so I think it's actually good to start losing the vibe check because as we lose the vibe check, we'll be able to what's it called? Draw 2 cards a turn as opposed to getting a card and a rod. And I think at this point we don't need more rods. The only card so the other reason to hold back these cards in our hand is because we do have Carnival Penguin in our deck right now. And so that's something that, could be useful. But again, this is also why I think I'm going to remove Carnival Penguin and put in the Bounce House rods. Just because Carnival Penguin, like, I don't really want to go more than 5 rods. So anyway, okay, so they've built a giant extrovert. And the question is, do I get any benefit by removing it this turn with Put on a Show? And I don't think I do because I basically have infinite Pudge in my hand. I have 3 or on the board because I have 7 and then have an Encore would unflop. So I have access to 11 Pudge. So I don't really need to use it now. And I think I really want to save all of my cards for that final turn with Screaming Penguin. So I now have like a line of sight on how we're going to end the game. We're going to end the game with a big Screaming Penguin. The problem with that is it is weak to Not Your Keys. Because if I make a big Screaming Penguin, they can always play Not Your Keys. So I think that's a good primary plan, but I do want a backup plan. And Peace Out Penguin is a perfect backup plan because I can actually get them off of 4 Pudge. So I think next turn I'm going to basically just play Peace Out Penguin and then yeah, and then maybe we'll do a big removal turn where we kind of take care of the extrovert and maybe 2 small things with Peace Out Penguin to get them off of the Not Your Keys amount of Pudge, and then we'll win with Screaming Penguin. So yeah. So let's see what they play. But okay, so we also need to start thinking about how we're gonna get to the end. Okay, so also I've not been paying attention, but they're on 13. So I think we really want to do something maybe this turn about how many points they're on because, you know, if you let them get to 14, right? Maybe they do have not your keys and then they can counter the peace out penguin. So let's do the big removal turn this turn. And I think I'm trying to think if there's a way. Oh, we have the combo of peace out penguin with 2 trust falls. And not an encore. Okay. All right, guys. This is going to get super exciting. We're gonna do some crazy combo this turn. All right, we also got a sunburn. So we'll play the peace out penguin. And yeah, now we're gonna pass. And we will we will do a play this turn. Do we have enough pudge to do it? Yeah, I think we do. So this is again, this is why it's really, really good with a red deck, with a red starter deck, to kind of just sit back and let your hand fill up because the more cards you have in your hand, you start getting these really cool plays available to you. And so what we're gonna do, so the combo we're gonna try to do, we'll see if they can disrupt it, is we're gonna play Trust Fall on Peace Out Penguin, Trust Fall on Peace Out Penguin again. That will get its vibe to 0. And Trust Fall says when up, okay, so they're kicking it off. So now we can actually do this in response. So in response, we're gonna first play Trust Fall on the Peace Out Penguin, and then we're gonna play another Trust Fall after it. But we're not going to now this is gonna be some very complicated stack management here. And this is one of the things that makes a red starter deck very difficult because, right, so we're putting okay, so we're putting the 2 trust falls on the stack and they're gonna resolve before not your keys. So this is gonna go on the stack first, which is gonna get the peace out penguin down to 0 vibe. Once it's at 0 vibe, it will not be able to be iced. Now the question is, should I use the peace out penguin ability now? And the answer to that is no, because if I do that, these won't be able to resolve and have the target. So, from their perspective, I think it was a misplay to play Not Your Keys because they could have actually countered my play with Not Your Keys by not proactively playing it. And so I think that's just something that's a like, there's this really like big game of chicken that happens whenever you're playing with any action based deck. So you can see now that Not Your Keys is not going to resolve on the Peace Out Penguin. So now we can use the Peace Out Penguin, and we can get rid of 2. So we're gonna get rid of this Mysterious Penguin and the Penguin of the Falling Leaves, right? We're choosing ones that add up to less than 10. So we're gonna put that on the stack, and then we're gonna let that resolve. Then we're gonna have an Encore to unflop the Peace Out Penguin, and then we're gonna do it again to get rid of the 2 Penguin Who Zooms. And then we're gonna put on a show against the Extrovert. And all right, so we'll let this resolve. All right, and then now that this resolved, we're gonna play. We're gonna now play Have an Encore, and we're gonna this time do it correctly. We're gonna unflop the Peace Out Penguin and the Ribbon Dancing Penguin. The reason I'm doing the Ribbon Dancing Penguin instead of the Wizard Penguin is just in general, it has 4 vibe, so it's less likely to be iced. And so I think it's good to protect that or good to unflop that one. Although, I don't think it really matters. So all right, so let's see what's gonna happen next. Because then, yeah, so next we're gonna get the Peace Out Penguin unflopped. Then we can take care of 2 Penguin Who Zooms. All right, so let's let this resolve. All right, so we got another Bamboo Penguin, and I think after we're done with this play, it's gonna be we're gonna be in a really strong position. But again, right, this is why put on a show is so important whenever you're playing against a yellow deck because you need a way to deal with these giant penguins and they definitely have giant penguins. And the even crazy thing is we still have our peace out penguin after this whole play. And next turn, we actually could do again and again with Trust Fall and actually repeat the whole process. And this is why we put again and again in the deck, one of the reasons. So I think at this point, we feel very strong. It's a little sad we're wasting everything on the Screaming Penguin because it's at 14 vibe. But I think the thing to keep in mind with Screaming Penguin as a finisher in the deck is it is kind of hard to get it to be more than 14 vibe. So yeah. So anyway, so we'll play the Screaming. So we have this Screaming Penguin, and we'll still feel yeah. But anyway, I think this game is over because next turn we can basically just do the whole thing again in case they threaten us. And so now the question is, do we do we want to do we want to kind of just try to just put them on game point again? So, and I think we do. We're gonna get well, can we even do it? Because we need to play 3 cards. No, so I think unless we draw a penguin, we're not gonna be able to end the game next turn. Up. Okay, well, I think they surrendered. But yeah, so anyway, that was what just happened was basically that's like the dream to be able to have that. But the point I want to make is the only reason that I was able to do that was because I held onto the cards in my hand. I was very protective of them and I didn't just play them out. Like I could have played Trust Fall so many times just to cycle it. But, there's this like with this deck, you really want to control the cards in your hand, have a big hand so that those type of plays open up to you. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to make some modifications to that deck because I really like again, like and I think this might just be my play style, but just I don't think that this deck should be running a board clear. It is just too it's just too aggressive of a deck. So we'll get rid of the drop of attentions. So we free up 3. And then I think we're gonna also get rid of the Carnival Penguin, just because you saw we never actually got up to 4. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put in Bounce House Rod. And the reason I think Bounce House Rod is actually gonna be really good for this deck is because at the beginning, I always want to like put down a shows as rods, but then later I want them back. Now, I think we'll get rid of this as we get a bigger card pool in the later versions of this challenge. But I think for now, I think in this like um basic deck building challenge, and let me just confirm that I'm not breaking my own rules here, because I believe the green starter deck runs, let me check. I do have the green starter deck. So let me see if that let me look at this. How many bounce house rods? So it runs 4 bounce house rods. So again, I'm just trying to limit myself on cards that every beginner would have access to. And I'm assuming that you're able to buy all the starter decks because you can just grind out against the AI to buy those starter decks. And so in the context of this challenge, we're allowing ourselves any starter deck cards as well. Let's see what's happening for our third game. I feel a lot better now that the have a that the drop of attentions are gone. Okay, so we definitely have okay, so we have a nice curve, 2 into 3. We don't wanna keep put on a show, I think well, I don't know. Oh, now that I think I'm gonna keep it because this would be a really good rod. Because I want my first rod to be a put on a show, because I'll later get it back with the bounce house rod, and against yellow, I would love to make sure I have a rod that's a put on a show. So I'm gonna keep that, and so then trust fall oh, I'm gonna keep should I keep the trust fall? Okay. Is it too greedy to keep the trust fall? Because the trust fall with the peace out is just so powerful. But I need to get the again and again or the second trust fall. But I think I'm gonna be greedy and try to do that. Because again, right, with this deck, it's all about keeping like, you need to get card advantage. If you don't get card advantage, you're not gonna win. And right, peace out penguin is already card advantage. It's already a built-in kind of 2 for 1. Oh, we got a contemplative penguin, even better. So I do think one thing to keep in mind with the 3 games that we've played so far, well, I don't know if I want to count that first game as a game because they immediately surrendered. Um, we've been really lucky with our draws. Like we have had really strong curves. That being said, this deck is a pretty low curve deck. Um, but yeah, we're okay, so let's think about it. Okay, so we now have okay, so we're gonna keep playing out the curve. And again, this is something that with this deck, right? It might be tempting to say, oh, I'm gonna play the trust fall and play this contemplative out because I want to just really take over the board quickly. But that's not how this deck wins. And thinking back to the mulligan now, I definitely should have kept trust fall. And the reason for that is it's always good to have an activator with your peace out penguin, because if you don't have an activator, you can't end up using your peace out. And so trust fall, like, yeah, I'm really happy I kept trust fall with, oh, let's make sure not to play that. Um, so yeah. So okay, so we have trust fall, we have peace out. And so the question is now, so the question is, should we play peace out onto the board? Because again, like by proactively playing out the peace out penguin, we are we end up we end up telegraphing to our opponent that we have a piece out and they're going to start playing around it. So, that being said, though, we have two. So, I think it's okay. I think it's okay to play one because we do just kind of want more pudge. Because that's one thing with this deck that you always want to think about having a lot of pudge. And the ribbon dancing penguin, and you have the wizard penguin. So, that's another thing that we're going to, like, when we think about this deck, like, what are we going to cut as we get into the later stages of the challenge? And ribbon dancing penguin is a penguin that I think is going to get cut, not because it's not good, but it's just because you already have the wizard penguin and you already have this amazing three fish penguin, and you need it, like, this deck can't run that many penguins because it runs so many actions. All right, so we have this curious penguin. And all right, so we're playing green. So green is definitely something that red struggles with. We're gonna On all our other games, we've kind of gotten control of the board and just kept board control. But today in this game, that's not going to be happening, I think, because against green. So, okay, so let's think about one thing that's really a good combo with Trust Fall as well is it can make your Peace Out Penguin get a 2-for-1. Like, let's say that they play another Curious Penguin. They'd have two sixes, and I wouldn't be able to, with Peace Out Penguin, have the 10 vibe, the 10 vibe. Oh, it's going to happen right now. Okay, so we're going to see it this turn. So this is another really good play with Peace Out Penguin and Trust Fall. Now, I'm going to play the Ribbon Dancing Penguin, and the reason I play the Ribbon Dancing Penguin instead of the Peace Out Penguin is because I want to, what's it called? I don't want to show my opponent that I have another Peace Out Penguin. Now, okay, so we're still going to be able to get some good card advantage here. Well, maybe they'll be able to counter it with a Lost in the Sauce, but let's see what they do. Okay, so they're gonna do a walk the runway. Okay, so this is a great time to get some lessons about the stack because the walk the runway. Oh no, so okay, so the thing is, the walk the runway is on the stack, and so if I play trust fall, right? Yeah, yeah, the trust fall. Well, I think I'm not going to be allowed, but either way, the peace out penguin is going to die or get iced. So okay, so I want to use it anyway. So I'm gonna use the trust fall, and I'll use the trust fall on this curious penguin. And I think this is something where like, okay, so I need the peace out penguin to go on this stack because if I let this resolve first, then the peace out penguin will be gone. So I have to put the peace out penguin on this stack. Now the sad thing is, I think because these currently are more than 12 vibe, it's not a valid target. Although maybe it is. Oh no, no, it won't be though because if I do it right, this will be on the stack, and it's going to resolve first. Yeah, so it's like if I put this on the stack at the top of the stack, then the trust fall. Okay, so which one did I trust fall? I trust fall the left one. So I have to destroy the right one because otherwise the left trust fall won't have a target and it won't resolve and I won't get to draw my card. And I won't be able to do them both. So, okay, so the question is, was this actually a good play or not, or should I have just let it? So if I let all this resolve, it would have been what would have been a trade? It would have been a trade for walk the runway to one piece out. So it would have been a 1-for-1 card advantage trade. Now, the way I'm doing it now is I'm spending 2 cards, Trust Fall and Peace Out Penguin, and they're spending 2 cards, Curious Penguin and Walk the Runway, right? And we're drawing a card. So now we're getting so card advantage wise is they lose 2 cards, we lose 1 card, right? Yeah, so this was a card advantage +1, and for me, and if I had just let the walk the runway resolve, it would have been a 0 card advantage. So it was still a good play because we still got 1 card advantage. All right, so now we got a bounce house rod. So the question is, do we actually want anything back? Because right now I don't think we do. Like, oh, well, we'll eventually want to put on a show back, but I'm starting to think, all right, so Yeah, we'll want to put on a show back because it's green, and against green, they're gonna have big things. But I'm not really in a rush to get it back. And so I think I would just keep playing out some penguins. And the question is, well, I'm not gonna win. I'm gonna have to play something as a rod. So I'm wondering if the contemplative would be a good rod. Because maybe I should get the well, I want to keep losing the vibe checks because I want more cards than them. Or do I want it? Do I want the game to go slow or fast? That's a question. But I think I'd rather have cards right now. So I'm gonna play the ribbon dancing penguin, and I'm not gonna play the contemplative penguin because I want to do that as a rod. And the reason that contemplative penguin is better than bamboo penguin is green can run Gotham, and so Gotham can get rid of two vibe penguins. I'm trying specifically to lose the vibe check, so I will not try to play the screaming penguin this turn. Again, I'm not in a big rush to play it out. And okay, so how am I going to win this game? So I'm going to win this game, I think, by just with the screaming penguin. The thing about green is they have a lot of big penguins, so we also just want to get as much removal as possible. And so okay, so if I had another trust fall now, right, I could do peace out and get rid of these two. But I don't even have an activator for peace out. Well, I do have a trust fall here, so maybe I should get the trust fall and get another 2 for 1 with my peace out. So that's something to maybe consider. Um, yeah. So I'm not super familiar with this matchup. Green starter deck versus red starter deck. So, but I think yeah, I think we will definitely we'll want to be able to remove big big penguins. I think, yeah, so let's just keep going wide on the board so we have a lot of pudge because green doesn't have any, like, their board clear is a really weird card. All right, so there's a points rich penguin, so we have no answer to that. I'm also like a little scared to play the screaming penguin until the very last turn. So okay, so hmm. We have no activator for the peace out. Okay, so let's definitely play the wizard penguin. And I think we'll play the contemplative as a rod. And I guess we'll just play out. Well, because okay, we're gonna play bounce house rod, so we're gonna need more stuff for rod. So we're gonna hold the other contemplative back to be a rod. But yeah, so what do we want to bounce house? So I think we definitely want to bounce house to put on a show. Just thinking about because otherwise we have no way to deal with this points rich penguin, and we'll maybe want to do that on the final turn with the screaming penguin. So okay, so we need to think about the game is getting down towards the end. I think we're gonna have 2 turns left, and so we wanna probably play the Screaming Penguin on the final turn, so I think this has to be the turn we play the Bounce House Rod. Alright, so we got another Bounce House Rod, but we won't be able to play them both because yeah, we're gonna play this turn well, no, we would be able to play them both. Okay, so Penguin in color. Alright, so this is definitely getting a very crowded board state, so I think alright, so we have to do something this upcoming turn, and so maybe we play this too slow. Alright, so we have an encore, so we can make a pretty big screaming penguin. So how big of a screaming penguin can we make? We can play basically we can get it to be 10, which is not sufficient. So we're gonna slow play this and we're gonna just buy one more turn before our big turn. So I think we're gonna play Peace Out Penguin and we're gonna play Bounce House Rod, face up, and we're gonna get the put on a show. All right, yes, because okay, so we'll get rid of the points rich penguin this turn. Okay, so the question is, do we need do we need this contemplative penguin? Because next turn we're gonna play our other bounce house a rod probably to get the trust fall for a big. So okay, so next turn we're gonna play screaming penguin, which is gonna cost 5. Then we'll play bounce house rod and get back this. So if we're gonna okay, so we might as well just get this out there. Um, are we gonna have are we gonna have 14 next turn if we do that? Because that's gonna get us to 13 this turn. And next turn, we're going to play nothing, or we're going to play one more 40. Okay, so we're going to lose. No, so it's going to take multiple turns anyway. So let's play this because we're not going to need more than 5 ever just because we will just need to play the Screaming Penguin. So if we were going to play it, we were going to play it that turn. All right, so let's see. So we want to save the have an encore for the final Screaming Penguin turn, but we have to do something this turn because they're on 14. So and they put the penguin in color to 9. So that's kind of annoying. So let's just put on a show. Let's just get rid of the big penguin. And so the question is, do we want to do something with a peace out penguin this turn? Because we could potentially take out the um we could potentially take out the 6 and the 4. But the problem is if we do that, the success penguin might get activated. So I think we also just want to save we want to save all of our spells and actions for next turn because we're going to play Screaming Penguin. Then we're going to play okay, cuz they're on 13. So we're going to play Screaming Penguin. We're then going to play Bounce House Rod to get back the Trust Fall. And then on our final turn, we basically have Trust Fall, have an Encore, which are going to draw 2 more cards. Ugh, now we have not a rod anymore, which I really want to also play because we're going to try to make a giant Screaming Penguin. So we're not going to then get the Trust Fall. So is there a way we can stall this for one more turn for that big final turn? Let's see what they play. Yeah, so I think maybe I was playing too slow because I really would like to have. No, I don't really need more rods. I really just need. I have 2 special rods in my hand that I can't use this turn. And the question is, do we just I think we just have to go, okay, we got another put on a show, which is going to be good because if they use the success penguin, okay, so I think we just go this turn and we just try to win the game. So, and we're going to play. So the question is, do we want a trust fall or a not a rod anymore? And I think we want the trust fall because then, yeah. And so we're going to, yeah, we'll get the trust fall. And the question is, can we, because if we right now, if on this turn, this is going to be a very complicated action turn. So let's just use our time right now to think through it a little bit. We really don't want to use a peace out penguin because if we use the peace out penguin, we go back down to 13 and we'll have spent a lot of actions and we want the screaming penguin to win the vibe check. So we don't, yeah, so we want to, and how big can we make the screaming penguin? We can make it currently, we can boost it up to 10. And so they move this to 8. So yeah, so really all we need to do is we need to just do the trust fall on the curious penguin because if we do that, it's basically going to force them to react. So we do the trust fall on the curious penguin. And yeah, so that's going to put this at 6 vibe. We're at 8 vibe now, which this means that we are now, in the dominant position in this, like we're going to win the vibe check. And so that's going to mean that they're going to have to respond. And my guess is that they have some actions in their hand, or they could use the success penguin. Now, the nice thing is, if they respond to make their vibe greater than 10, we'll then use put on a show. So I think we have, and again, this is the beauty of the red deck, that you are able to put your opponent in like these kind of like heads I win, tail I lose situation, which is ironic because we're not playing that specific card, but it's like I think up. Okay, so they're gonna all right, so they're going to do everyone stay clam. And so one of the things that worries me about them playing this is what if they have the what a twist? And so I think I just need to use so we're not going to be able to win this turn anyway. So I'm going to just use the peace out penguin to get them off of 15 because if they have what a twist, we're going to lose otherwise. And so I think the nice thing is we can actually take out 2 penguins here. And yeah, so I don't know if they're because everyone stay clam is not in the green starter deck, I think. Well, so I guess neither is penguin in color. So I'm not sure if they're playing the what a twist combo, which is a super cool combo that I learned from Caution Fun, who's the best green player that I know. Or I don't even know that's fair. He put up this really cool video about a green control deck. And but okay, so it's a little sad now because we had our, like, victory set up that turn, and now we're gonna have to and so that's also why we wanna be careful not to go all in because they had an answer. It's now 13-13. They have the Baron, and we now used up our Trust Fall. But the nice news is that we still are kind of in a similar situation where we just and we have our Not a Rod anymore now. We'll be able to use that. So, alright, so we definitely wanna get into a situation. Okay, so we'll play everything because this game is going to end. Okay, I'm gonna play this to the left of the screaming penguin just so that you guys can see the screaming penguin because it's hiding under my webcam. So off to the left here is this ribbon dancing penguin. So all right, so now when we go into the action phase, what do we have in our hand? So we have to put on a show. We have no targets for it. So not a rod. So we would actually lose the game if we didn't have not a rod anymore. So let's do not a rod anymore, and let's just put it on screaming penguin. I don't know if that's right, but I think it's fine because screaming penguin now is going to go to 10, and so that means the really nice thing about screaming penguin is okay. So now they're doing this again. Hmm. Well, okay. So we're not going to lose. Okay. So the question is now next turn, we have nothing to activate the, screaming penguin, right? Because 'Cause they're gonna have 8, or screaming penguin's gonna be 6, and it's not gonna be big enough to be activated. So I'm gonna cycle the have an encore here just because it can't activate, and I wanna have as many draws as possible for an activator. I'm only gonna get 2 I'm only gonna get 1 draw from my turn, and I need to get a spell or we're gonna lose. So, yeah, so let's just unflop. I mean, I'll unflop the screaming penguin, but it's not gonna matter because it is, oh, so there's something really interesting here where if I had 2 not an encores, I could have floated a Pudge. Okay, so maybe if I draw another have an encore. Okay, so it's really good I floated the Pudge with the ribbon dancing penguin. Um, just because if I draw another have an encore, I actually could. Okay, so I got a bounce house rod. Is there anything? There's a sunburn. Okay, so we have an activator. So bounce house rod has been coming in handy for sure because now we can get the sunburn back. We'd have to sunburn our own penguin, which is always kind of sad, but it's you know, up I lost. Okay, because they were still at 15. So yeah, I guess there was no way out of it. Anyway, all right, so well, that's just yeah, so that was a good game by them, and I was not ready for 2 everyone stay clams, but I don't know if I could have gotten out of that. But anyway, I think yeah, I'm gonna end it here. So yeah, thanks everyone for watching. And the next installment of this, I'm gonna be modifying the deck so that I'm gonna be adding some more commons and uncommons. Let's just go back real quick and review the deck list. So basically, what we have is right in this deck here. We basically put in some bounce house rods and again, took out some of the other things. We've really turned this more into like a red tempo deck. And yeah, we'll go yeah, next time we will add it to have be allowed to do 4 of any common, 2 of any uncommon, and 1 of any rare. And I think when we do that, the deck's going to get even stronger. All right, thanks everyone for watching, and I'll catch you next time.